Today on the list, what your email address says about you. One last curtain for the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and
there's so many flavor profiles going on.
Taste the difference in regional barbecue.
The thicker the smoke ring, the better the result.
Plus, advanced parenting advice from a pediatrician.
Children need unstructured time where they can take risks like climbing on a tree in the park.
But up first, why confidence is a key to creating wealth. It's your life, it's your list, and it starts right now.
Hey everyone, I'm Christina Guerrero.
And I'm Jimmy Rhodes. And even these days, when there are seemingly millionaires everywhere, most of us would just be thrilled with the idea of having $100,000 in the bank.
I mean, that would be amazing. And while it may sound impossible to so many of us, there are ways to reach that goal.
Jackie Decker is sharing how we can add $100K to our bottom line. And that's our featured story at the top of the list.
Adding $100,000 to your net worth may seem way out of reach, but
we're actually way more in control of it than we think we are. When we put the emphasis on within and we start making decisions about our life within ourselves, that starts to get reflected back to us outside.
Award-winning executive coach Mitchell Creasy, aka the President's Coach, did this himself last year, and he is telling us how he did it so we can too. Starting with, be honest with yourself about what you want.
We all have goals, but we also have concessions. For a lot of us, those concessions look like economical or cultural concessions, like the pandemic or a recession.
But for Mitchell,
it was always more spiritual, emotional. I feel sad or angry or afraid, so I can't possibly receive. But the more I started to come back to and remember what it is I actually wanted, the more I started to increase my capacity to actually receive it.
He would tell himself,
money comes quickly. Money happens regardless of how I feel. Money is my best friend. Money and I have a great relationship. These are the beliefs that I started to dial into my body. I don't have to solve the sadness. I just have to remember what I want. Just having that other option to come back to my bank account allowed my consciousness to rise up to actually receiving it.
Then he created a blueprint.
So I started asking myself this question as much as possible. If I already had the dollar figure that I wanted, how would I feel right now?
And each time he asked himself this question,
I noticed myself slipping into a state of peace. I noticed my heart opening. I noticed myself feeling like I was receiving a big hug. And I learned this feeling. I tattooed it on my inner being and I came back to it as much as possible. Meaning that you're going to have to start to think about things a lot differently to create from the inside out. The benefit is by the time that the money or whatever it is you want actually arrives, your body's conditioned to receive it. So it's going to feel normal.
Finally, it was time to take action.
Email this person. Call that person. I'm gonna be honest with you, a lot of the time it was scary, but it started to work.
He says take actions as if you are already making $100K more.
We put our attention on the end result and we let that pull us forward in the steps we take here in the present.
And Mitchell says whatever you do, keep going until you see dollar signs.
I liken it to going to the gym. You go to the gym, you start, and you feel different, but there's no actual physical difference in your body, right? But if you just keep going, day after day after day after day, all of a sudden, one day you're gonna wake up, bam, there's a muscle, bam, the belly's shrunk, and you can physically see it. When we just choose to keep going, when we keep moving downstream, when we keep putting one foot in front of the other, the thing we want has no choice but to meet us on our path.
Stashing away the cash by learning how to attract more money into our lives is at the top of the list.
Grab a whole stack of napkins and probably some of those wet naps too, because it's National Barbecue Day. This is a holiday that must be celebrated, so we sent Zach Perry out to sample some regional takes on America's signature food.
North versus South, East Coast versus West Coast. There are a lot of feuds across this great nation of ours about which region does what best. But perhaps nothing is more hotly debated than barbecue.
I feel like, each region's very confident in their style of barbecue. Like they know it's the best.
Everybody that comes in here has some sort of heartfelt connection to the region of barbecue. And you'll hear a lot of people saying, I haven't had this since I lived back home in Kansas. Or I haven't had this since I lived in Texas.
I signed up for an education in barbecue from Joe Berman, general manager at the Thumb Barbecue in Scottsdale, Arizona, who taught me all about the most popular styles from around the country. For starters, we're headed down south for Texas style. And in Texas, Joe says it's all about the brisket with a heavy, dry rub.
This is Texas style barbecue at its finest, focusing on the rub. Creates this fine bark, very simple, salt and pepper, and a couple of other herbs and spices that we put on here.
Texas style brisket is a time-consuming labor of love, cooked low and slow.
At 185 degrees, smoke it for about 12 hours.
This is not something that can be thrown together. I mean, there are hours that go into the preparation and cooking process.
Joe says the secret to identifying a great brisket is its smoke ring.
The flavor of the smoking and the rub doesn't go past the smoke ring. The thicker the smoke ring, the better the result. The smoke ring is that red part, really where all of the flavor comes from.
The next stop on our barbecue tour is in the Midwest for the Kansas City style. And unlike our friends in Texas, in Kansas City, it's all about the sauce.
A thick, sweet tomato, molasses-based sauce, very sticky. At the end of the day, this should be an easy eating, sticky, sweet, juicy, messy, delicious barbecue experience.
Casey's style incorporates all kinds of meats, but Joe says ribs are a go-to for most barbecue connoisseurs.
We're looking at some awesome ribs. Come on, talk to me about this.
Specifically, we're talking about the cut of the rib. Nice and clean, very little cartilage on there, trimmed away all the fat, nice and meaty.
Our last stop is on the East Coast, Carolina style. The signature component is a thinner, vinegary, mustard-based sauce, popularly served with pulled pork.
Juicy, mouth-watering, shredded to perfection, heavy mustard, heavy zest, light sweet, interesting palate for everybody. And you'll know a barbecue enthusiast because they ask for your mustard sauce.
Now, I'm trying to cut back on my red meat these days, but I had to try that brisket.
This really happens to be a fantastic piece right here. I would serve this to the Pope.
Oh my gosh. It melts in your mouth.
We're broadening our culinary horizons by learning about some epic regional styles of barbecue.
Parenting is a full-time job with 0 sick days, not a dime for overtime pay or pay in general, and no instruction manual. So with many challenges in our modern world, we asked a pediatrician for answers to some of our most puzzling parenting questions.
We feed, bathe, dress our kids, and run them to countless activities.
I would say overall parents are more overburdened in this time than they've ever been in the past.
In a Pew Research poll, 62% of parents said parenting is at least somewhat harder than they expected, and about a quarter said it's a lot harder. Why does parenting seem so challenging right now?
Parents do more paid labor outside the home, and they're also expected to manage their children in a deeper and more comprehensive way than prior generations.
New York City pediatrician Kelly Fraden wrote the book Advanced Parenting. We asked her for a few tips in an era when parenting seems so much more intense. First, when it comes to sick kids, what's the norm?
On average, kids get sick between 6 and 8 times a year in the preschool and elementary years.
A fever can last a few days, but a runny nose and cough may linger for weeks.
If you do the math, it's probably more than half the year the children have something going on.
Kids who go to daycare tend to get sick more often. The upside?
When they go to school, they tend to have a more robust immune system and not get sick as much.
And when you're debating whether or not to send your kid to school,
if your child didn't sleep last night because they were up coughing all night, even if they don't have a fever, they're unlikely to have a successful day at school.
She says today's parents tend to overbook kids, but they need downtime.
Children need free time to play. They need rest. They need unstructured time where they can take risks like climbing on a tree in the park.
Also, Dr. Fraden says try not to overparent.
There's some indication that overparenting our children may have something to do with the mental health crisis they're facing.
Her advice, try to be a bit more hands-off.
When children gain independence, it's really good for their self-esteem, and it can help them to develop grit and resilience.
And finally, when it comes to managing screen time on devices,
one important safety precaution parents can take is keeping it outside of the bedroom.
You can keep a better eye on what your kids are doing online that way. Also, use parental controls. They are great tools.
Many iPads and devices have screen time limits parents can set so that you can impose a time limit on your child's access to screens.
Overall, Dr. Fraden says don't put pressure on yourself to be the perfect parent.
I think think it's really important for parents to acknowledge that they cannot do it all.
Try to relax and realize your kids will turn out just fine. Still to come on the list, gadgets to improve your golf game.
You just extend that out, reach over, grab one, grab your ball.
Plus, why you should visit Hawaii's Royal Palace.
Our goal is that my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and yours will have a place to come and visit and learn about this special part of Hawaii's history.
And celebrate a show that's won over 50 awards.
Inside that Trojan horse of this beautiful, delightful, hilarious show is some very important things being talked about.
All that and more ahead on the list.
Welcome back, and KG golfers are going to be glued to their TV screens this weekend as the best of the best play the PGA Championship, which is one of golf's 4 major tournaments.
So exciting, but for the rest of us, that means maybe it's a great time to play around at a public course without worrying about all of those mulligans.
But if you're looking to level up your game, Eddie DeJamal's checking out some golf essentials to help you shoot for par.
We all know you need clubs to golf, but
Golfers, we're in the outdoors. We have certain equipment to take care of the golf course, take care of yourself, help keep up the pace of play. There's several reasons why you need to be well equipped on a golf course.
I stopped at Quintero Golf Club and spoke with General Manager Mike Poe to learn all about golf essentials, starting with an umbrella.
All the golf bags will have an umbrella sleeve, is what we call it here. You pull the umbrella out, and almost instantly you see that it's a lot bigger than your normal umbrella.
Oh yeah.
And it's got wind vents in it right here, so if it does get windy, air goes through it, and
Wow.
you're now shaded.
It literally changed about 10 degrees just now.
And SPF, sun protection factor, is through the roof with umbrellas.
Absolutely, you got to start early on skincare around here.
I'm only 25.
I
I've
believe-
been out in the sun way too long.
You need that umbrella more than most.
Next, a ball retriever.
How important is this thing? Because I would imagine, I got 2 hands.
Right. Well, 2 hands won't do you any good when the ball's in the water. It can be used going through trees. It can be used in bunkers if you haven't had a bunker lesson and you just want to get your ball out of the sand without going in. You just extend that out, reach over, grab one, grab your ball, put it where you're comfortable playing, and move on.
Some extend to 20 feet and they're easy to use.
Set it over the ball, push a little bit, and it'll go in there.
Well, then watch me chop this up for no reason. Oh, okay, never mind. It's really easy. If I can do it, anyone can do it at this point.
Our final essential, a divot repair tool.
When your approach shot hits the green,
Yeah.
it will leave a mark on the golf course.
Well, after I swing a ball, you will.
Right, and you don't want to go over a bumpy surface, so we use these to repair that surface.
And Mike says the polite thing to do is fix the mark.
And there are 2 thought processes on how to fix or repaired ball marks. One is to go around the ball mark and work the hole in till it goes away, and then use your putter to tap it down. There's another thought process to fix these, is to just lift them up. Okay. What I like to tell people, Hattie, is that it doesn't matter which one you use, just use one of them.
That's what I'm talking about, Mike. Poe.
Right?
Preach.
We're playing like pros.
Actually, I'll take this.
There you go.
Thanks to these golf essentials.
May is Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and while there are a number of ways to experience the culture, Teresa Strasser has a great way to deepen the experience. She's checking out a few AAPI historic sites that you can visit across America. Hey, Teresa.
Thank you. From a palace to an island, here are a few locations that celebrate and remember Asian American and Pacific Islander history and culture. Coming in at number 1, Wing Luke Museum in Seattle, Washington.
You'll see stories of many heroes, hometown heroes, who have helped write the history of Asian America.
Established in 1967, this 60,000 square foot museum offers 3 floors filled with exhibits and stories to tell.
Like our namesake, Wing Chong Luke, who was and is a symbol of courage, compassion, and perseverance.
This location focuses on the art, history, and culture of Asian Americans, Pacific Islanders, and Native Hawaiians.
So welcome into Where Beauty Lies. This exhibit actually is built in 5 parts in 5 different rooms.
For more info, visit wingluke.org. At number 2, Angel Island, that's in San Francisco, California.
We invite you to trace their footsteps and connect with their hopes, struggles, stories, and enduring legacies.
This island was used as an immigration port between 1910 and 1940.
Based on available records, we know that Chinese, Japanese, Korean, South Asian, and Russian immigrants were the largest groups who came through Angel Island.
Here, visitors can take a guided tour and learn about the place once considered the Ellis Island of the West.
We're now standing in the Asian men's barracks on the second floor.
If you want to know more, you can check out AIISF.org. And last on this list is Iolani Palace. That's in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Our goal is that for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren and yours will have a place to come and visit and learn about this special part of Hawaii's history.
This royal residence, completed in 1882, was once the official home of Hawaiian monarchs.
The woman in this portrait is Kapi'olani. Born in 1834, she is the granddaughter of Kaumuali'i, the last king of Kauai.
And if you can't make it in person, don't worry.
You can take a virtual tour of the palace. You'll also find some great stories about the portraits that you'll find in the palace.
For more info, visit iolanipalace.org. And those were a few places helping us celebrate AAPI heritage across America. Lots more to come on the list. Stay right here.
We are back. On today's watch list, after 5 marvelous seasons, the marvelous Mrs. Maisel is finally coming to an end. Jackie Danker's talking about it with 2 of the stars and the wife and husband creative team behind it.
It's showtime!
After 5 solid seasons, Prime Video's The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is coming to an end May 26th.
Good night!
And while the show's been honored with more than 50 awards, that's not what the stars behind and in front of the camera want you to remember about it.
Inside that Trojan horse of this beautiful, delightful, hilarious show is some very important things being talked about.
First, watching a housewife in the 50s try to break into stand-up comedy could inspire you to pursue your own dreams.
I want a big life. I want to break every single rule there is.
We all want to be better, improve, bigger than we were when we went to sleep the night before.
I am, for the first time in my life, taking charge of my own destiny.
Well, that can't end badly at all.
In the face of adversity and in the face of judgment, in the face of restrictions of a certain time and place in one's life, our leading character just says, I need to do this because my heart, my brain, every pore of my body is saying, I want this. So I think I want from people to take away that this is a place to follow your heart and to go after your dream.
Smell that?
Smells like cheap beer and piss.
I know. Exciting, right?
Next, the importance of optimism.
You're gonna be great.
It's a very joyous show. In a world where there's not a lot of optimistic programming on, sometimes you need a frantic frenzy of energy and a sort of like, I'm gonna rip through life and pour through the bad times, and I'm not gonna land in my bedroom eating ice cream and crying into my stuffed animal.
Yeah, that's your life,
It's
not
a ride.
Midge's.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I'm gonna get this.
We'll wrap with a lesson Midge Maisel and the show creator's dad, Don Sherman, can teach us. The power of stand-up comedy.
Watching when my dad would perform and be able to get people to listen and laugh at things that maybe they weren't gonna listen or laugh at outside of it, that's a very powerful tool. If you're really, really good, it propels all conversation. And I loved watching these 2 women utilize that power and drive it home.
And men in general run around telling everyone that only men are funny. Comedy is fueled by disappointment and humiliation. Now, who the hell does that describe more than women?
For more of our interviews with the cast and crew, check out the guest list on our YouTube channel, The List Show TV.
More in the best sense of the word.
The lasting legacy of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel on the watch list. We'll be right back.
Friends, welcome back. It's time for what's last on our list. Now, last I checked, Jimmy, you still have a job.
Wait, the show's not over, KG. Do not underestimate my ability to get fired.
Well, if you ever find yourself in the job market, keep this in mind from Lifehacker. Your old email address is hurting your job prospects. And yeah, this one's for you cool girls1234 at AOL.com.
Yes, if your email includes AOL, Hotmail.com, Me.com, Outlook.com, or even iCloud.com, it's considered outdated. According to their expert, if you still have one of these emails, it's going to show how old you are. Because, face it, most AOL users are over 50. Now, it's wrong to discriminate based on age. It's also, illegal. But experts say don't even give them a chance to overlook you.
Yeah, and it's not even about age. It's also about how tech savvy you are. Apparently, tech savvy 98 at AOL.com implies you haven't been tech savvy since 1998.
They also say your email address can suggest a lack of maturity if it includes, say, inside jokes or pop culture references. So if you got something like Brittany and Justin forever at yahoo.com, maybe it's time for an update.
Brittany and Justin fan right here. I would totally hire you. Finally, your email address can suggest a lack of sophistication. They say using old silly email might indicate to an employer that you're unaware of a more standard and neutral option, which they say is Gmail.
Okay, wait a minute. Is this just a smear campaign on Google's part to get more users?
Interesting theory. You should maybe Google that later. And that's what's last on our list. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Tomorrow on the list, put a new twist into summer hairstyles.
Braids are so simple and good for everybody.
Plus, easy ways for you to collect confidence.
When I decided to live out my life's calling, then everything started happening, almost in a magical way.
And how to make working with your spouse work.
You cannot sit at the same desk and then sit at the same dinner table and sleep in the same bed at night.
Tomorrow on the list.